Hello everybody. Now this video is going to follow on from the last couple that I've done about overpopulation. This is something that people in the UK probably haven't heard about. This is a movement that's been happening in America. It's a religious Christian thing. It's called the quiverfull movement.
Quiverfull is really a condition of the heart. It's the willingness to embrace all the children that God has designed for your family. We are building God's kingdom. That's ultimately our entire purpose for being on this earth. And the more children we have, the more children there are and more people to spread that good news.
And in Genesis 1, we see God creating the world and then blessing everything that he had created, and specifically blessing that first man and that first woman, saying, "Be fruitful and multiply and take dominion of the earth." And the mentality of a quiverfull family says that wasn't just a suggestion, that's not just a good idea, that's a command from God.
So this is basically people who believe that contraception, any kind of contraception, is getting in the way of God's plan, and they make it their life's work to basically have to avoid contraception because they think that's unholy. But more than that, they try to have as many kids as possible, and this was with the explicit intent to create basically an army of God. And we'll talk about that intent in a little short while. Now this movement basically started off with a book called The Way Home. This was an anti-feminist book by someone called Mary Pride. It basically implies that God wants you to have as many kids as possible to go and spread the good word of God. Now this comes from Psalm 127, 3-5, and I'll show you that here. So what that last bit means there is that basically you have enough kids, have enough people on your side, you will be able to fuck your enemies up, yeah? Power in numbers, might makes right kind of thing. This is where they're coming from. This is all biblical kind of doctrine. This is something that the Bible tried to instill in its followers, you know, have as many kids as you can, expand yourself, grow, you will be able to take on your adversaries, your opponents, meaning other religions and non-believers. Now, this was a movement that was popularized, or rather became infamous thanks to an American family called the Duggars. Now the Duggars have actually capitalized on this. They've got their own reality TV show. They've been on countless chat shows. The father writes books and sells them on how to look after families and child rearing. And the way that it's been portrayed in the media has been, on the whole, completely positive. There's not been a lot of criticism at all in the mainstream media in America, and we'll get onto that in a short while. Now the Duggars are actually on 20 kids. They actually have 20 children. Okay. Now, and they, like I said, they have their own reality TV show. They give advice on the Discovery Health channel right here on YouTube, which I'll put a link to in the lower bar. And that channel has nearly 40,000 subscribers. So before I go on, you know, is it just Christians that are doing this? No. Is it all Christians that are doing this? No. This is just a movement that I'm talking about. It's a movement that so far encompasses 10,000 families. So it's not massive, but by the very nature of it, it's something that will obviously, like the video said, expand if it becomes if the kids take on that kind of mantra. So it's not just a Christian thing, but what can we learn from this? It's that, you know, religious fundamentalists are obsessively trying to basically take over the world. This is what it is. That's putting it in very blunt language, but that's basically what's going on here. But these people would do well to remember that these lessons, these from the Bible, these old lessons from this ancient book, are from a world where resources were virtually infinite, and where your effect on the environment was no more than the contents of your outhouse shitbox, you know. The circumstances are not the same today. We need to be thinking differently when it comes to ideas of population, this kind of thing, sizes of families and all that kind of thing. Now, the quiverfull movement is very closely linked and supported by an organisation called the ATI, which is Advanced Training Institute International. Now this is a Christian fundamentalist homeschooling network, okay, set up by religious people for basically Christian homeschoolers. There's a website that I found called No Longer Quivering, which is basically set up by people that have left that movement and realised how damaging it can be. Okay, and I'll put links to everything I'm talking about in the lower bar. So this is in the words of a lady identifies as Vicky. Now this is someone who used to be a proponent and celebrator of the quiverfull movement, but she left that. Okay, but in her own words, this is what quiverfull basically means. It's the idea that a truly godly family will trust the Lord with their family planning. Children are viewed as unmitigated blessings, and as such the couple is willing to have as many children as the Lord chooses to bless them with. They see artificial or chemical birth control, such as the pill, they equate that with abortion, basically. Now, the sin of murdering your offspring. But that only tells half the story, doesn't it? Okay, this isn't just letting God bless you with as many kids as you want. These people actively try to have as big a family as they can possibly have. Obviously, the family I've mentioned there, 20 kids. Very often these families do end up with a lot of kids. It's not just about denying the usefulness or the relevance of birth control. They're actively trying to have as many kids as possible in order to have these little God armies, okay, and so this is what they're doing. And of course it's absolutely plainly ridiculous to talk about the sin of murdering your own offspring. Abortion is what they see that as, and to equate that with birth control. Okay, so what happens if you have a wank? Let me ask you this, every time you have a wank into a sock, are you murdering thousands of potential God's warriors? Because that's what you're doing. Oh, you don't masturbate, you're a Christian. I'm sure you have wet dreams every now and again. I don't think even Christians can have that much control over their psyche that they will never have a wet dream. So every time you do that and you spunk your holy Lord in the middle of the night, you are murdering thousands of potential God's soldiers. So, how can you live with yourself? It's absolutely insane, the basis for this movement, the belief that they have. But anyway, we talked about the fact that this quiverfull movement, this Christian family thing going on, is very closely linked to this religious homeschooling organisation. Now, these are the central tenets of some of the religious doctrine that is included in that homeschooling. Honour, obedience and submission are highly valued qualities because they are necessary to maintain order and work together to accomplish the Lord's vision for a godly family. So these are the things that are shoved down these kids' throats, okay? This is fucking indoctrination of the highest order, okay? The next one is sheltering of children. Now this is the homeschool mindset, includes a basic belief in the Christian sense that children have to be protected and sheltered from the world, outside influences which could be detrimental to the child's spiritual well-being, basically. So it's, explicitly supporting, cutting off outside influences that could possibly make them see that this is ridiculous fucking setup, basically. It's fucking disgusting. It says here, it is often quoted that foolishness is bound up in the heart of a child. This, coupled with the scripture which says, a companion of fools shall be ruined, leads to the logical conclusion that children, fools, should not be socialized by other children, fools, but instead should learn social skills from adults. Isolation and control of outside influences is not only considered normal, but good. It is the godly approach to child rearing. Another one is modesty. A girl or woman whose clothing is revealing is guilty of defrauding her Christian brother because she is tempting him with impure thoughts in relation to her body, which is not rightfully his to possess. So this is saying, sisters, don't dress with the low-cut slutty clothes and all this kind of shit because your brothers might want to fuck you. So they're trying. It's very good of them. They're trying to avoid incest. This is good because there's going to be a lot of kids around and they'll start getting horny about 13, 14. So, maybe even younger. So, they need to protect against that. And obviously they don't let them out to see other kids. So, this is a recipe for incest. This is a fucking terrible idea, people. Come on. Jesus Christ. So this comes from the Lord, the good Lord, the Bible. So they've basically taken one little passage of the Bible, this ancient patriarchal piece of shit, and ran with it to define how they procreate. Well, there's lots of good stuff in the Bible. Why don't you live your life according to some of the other passages in there? Let's have a look at some of them, shall we? What about when Samuel, one of the early leaders of Israel, ordered genocide against the neighbouring people? When he says, "This is what the Lord Almighty says, now go and strike Amalek and devote to destruction all that they have. Do not spare them, but kill both man and woman, child and infant, ox and sheep, camel and donkey." That's a bit... What did the donkeys ever do? What about the ending of Psalm 137, a psalm which was made into a disco calypso hit by Boney M, but this line is often omitted when it's read out in church. The last line of Psalm 137 says, "Happy is he who repays you for what you have done to us, for he seizes your infants and dashes them against the rocks." Nice, yeah, hitting babies against rocks. Yeah, that's probably good. Yeah, we should live by that one. Okay, what about another blood-curdling tale from the Book of Judges, where an Israelite man is trapped in a house by a hostile crowd and sends out his concubine to placate them. Do you remember this one? "So the man took his concubine and sent her outside to them, and they raped her and abused her throughout the night, and at dawn they let her go. At daybreak the woman went back to the house where her master was staying, fell down at the door and lay there until daytime. When her master got up in the morning and opened the door of the house and stepped out to continue on his way, there lay his concubine, fallen in the doorway of the house. With her hands on the threshold, he said to her, "Get up, let's go." But there was no answer. Then the man put her on his donkey and set off for home. Yeah, if you're going to get burgled, just send out your girlfriend. The burglars can rape her. They'll probably forget about burgling your house and you'll be all right. What about when the Lord is speaking to Abraham in the story where God commands him to sacrifice his son? "Take your son, your only son Isaac, whom you love, and go to the land of Moriah, and offer him there as a burnt offering on one of the mountains that I shall show you." Child sacrifices, yeah, I can see how that would work as well. You know, if you really want something that bad, then if you've got loads of kids anyway, you may as well sacrifice a few of them. I mean, you know, it's worth an SUV or a 40-inch plasma TV. So, how about the many, many passages where the Bible basically advocates slavery? "Slaves, submit yourself to your master with all respect, not only for the good and gentle, but also to the cruel." This is the book that you're taking your advice from, okay? This is fucking ridiculous. I tell you what, if you want to do something really great, really godlike, really Jesus-like, why don't you adopt 20 kids, yeah? Instead of fucking pumping them out yourself, this fucking selfish, genetic fucking conveyor belt fucking shit that you're spewing out. If you want to do something purely Jesus-like, why don't you adopt 20 kids? Now that would be truly respect-worthy. That is something that Jesus would fucking pat you on the head for. Wasn't he a good Samaritan? I think he was, yes. Did Jesus have any kids? Not documented, not officially anyway. So how is that fucking godlike? I don't know. But, okay, yes, adopt. If you want to have loads of kids, go and adopt 20 kids. I would take my hat off to you. But this conveyor belt of your own fucking genes is sickening. Now this stuff has got an easy ride in the press now. Here is some of these stories and the way it's been presented. On ABC News, an article called A Full Quiver, a growing movement for growing families of God. On Fox News, An Army of God was the name of the article by Rachel Scott, a Quiverfull Digest subscriber she is, and author of the book Birthing God's Mighty Warriors. An article in The Nation was called Arrows for the War. Quiverfull mothers think of their children as no mere movement, but as an army they're building for God. An article in the Washington Times called Being Fruitful. An article in Newsweek called Birth Dearth. This is, remember the population bomb? The new threat to the planet is that not too many people, but too few. I find this really sad. I mean, you know, it's one thing to believe in something, to have your own religion, but it's another to impose it onto your child, okay? To even have your child with the expressed intention of making them into this religious fundamentalist thinker, okay? Whatever happened to following your dreams, you know? These children are brainwashed into thinking they're not good for anything but being spouses and breeding machines. It's central to the what's fed into them. But what it comes down to is this is an unsustainable ideology, okay? Now, with modern technology, it's quite easy for a family to have 20 kids if they're fertile enough, okay? In fact, there's many ways to help people be more fertile, okay? Now, and obviously the government is implicit and actually often explicit in their support for procreation and in the promotion of it, basically. And, you know, there's health benefits for infants and families. You know, there's government benefit handouts. Okay, let's have a look at the numbers, though, yeah? This is an unsustainable ideology, and that's the point I'm getting at here, okay? Now, just for the 10,000 families that identify as Quiverfull, and that's not including, of course, the probably quite a large number of Christian families that ascribe to similar kind of doctrines based on this contraception being against God's will. But let's just stay with the 10,000 that actually identify as Quiverfull. And let's say they have 20, they are as successful as the family you've seen, that have 20 kids. So if 10,000 families are doing this right now, if each has 20 kids, okay, and their kids, and each of those kids has 20 kids, okay, in 90 years, in just 90 years, that could be 80 million. Right, 80 million of these fucking lunatics running about the place, yeah. And there's only just over 300 million in the US now, okay. So 10,000 families in 210 years, that's just roughly 6 generations, okay. That's 12.8 trillion of these motherfuckers. And obviously that's a good magnitude higher than the whole planet's population right now, okay. See, and the media is treating this as something cute. This is, you know, something these families are celebrated on TV as being a perfect American family, and it's not the norm. But and I hope it fucking never is. Speeches later, bye.
Do you ever feel like this is a lot of responsibility for me, and I'm really a child myself?
Not really. I feel like it's a privilege to be helping my mommy. I don't feel like it's a burden or that I'm overworked. My mama is training me and my sisters to be helpmates someday for our husbands.